welcome into the Olipod as we count down to next year's Tokyo Olympics. And what better way than to kick it off with New Zealand's pole vaulting sensations, Olivia McTaggart and Eliza McCartney. Thanks for joining us, guys. Now, oh my goodness, what a year it's been. Eliza, kick us off. What's your year been like?
Oh my goodness, it's just, same as everybody, right? It's just been crazy, and we've had to really look at, the difference in uncertainty. What do we do with all this time? And I think at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh my God, we've got a whole winter at home. That's so much training. This is really great. And so there's been a lot of really positive things that we could work on, and the fact that we can really utilise this time so that hopefully we come back next year a lot stronger. But, I'm feeling a lot more certain now that the Olympics is going to go ahead next year, and so that gives us more certainty. And I feel like that's it's going into the end of this year, it's given us a little bit of hope to really work towards, prepare for the domestic season, and then hopefully have an Olympic Games next year.
It's been a benefit for you too, isn't it, Olivia, like having that extra year, and I guess you've had Eliza at home for the year too, but less international travel as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think uncertainty has been the word for this year, but in saying that, being athletes, we've had to adapt a lot, which has been good for growth as well over the last year as athletes and people. So it's been interesting. It's first year for me at home for 3 years. Normally we're over in Europe. So it's been really good to just pretty much build a base foundation going into next season, pretty much getting a whole redo of last season into this season, which is really exciting. So I've just been changing a few things around and making sure I'm going into this season the strongest and best that I can be. So yeah, it's exciting times, but coming out of it pretty good.
Nice. I guess we are coming out of that sort of cloudy period, but if we can go back to the moment that they announced the Olympics was going to be postponed, Eliza, what was that like?
The timing was really funny in New Zealand because it was right when we went into lockdown, and so everything just kind of happened at once, and in some ways it almost lessened the impact that might have had on us otherwise. If we were able to keep training and the Olympics were still going ahead, that would be great, but if we were going into lockdown and the Olympics are still going ahead and we couldn't train, that would be a really mentally challenging thing to feel like you're coming up to one of the most, pinnacle event in sport. Other people overseas might be able to train and you can't. That I was worried that might come upon us.
What was it like for you? Was it sort of a bit of a case of, well, this is a bit interesting, this has changed my plans, but game on, I've got a whole other year to do this?
Yeah, 100%. That's what it was like for me. I guess the first lockdown coming out of my season, I was just coming towards the end of the season. It wasn't looking too likely that I'd be qualifying. It was pretty unknown. I had 2 more competitions that were cut off, so the season was cut pretty early. And then from there, I guess it was 4 weeks of lockdown, trying to get that fitness base up, like Liz was saying, and just coming out of it stronger. And then from there, I think a lot of athletes were trying to understand if the Olympics would go ahead or not. So sort of that, it was quite a lengthy period of not knowing whether we would or not. So when it came out, it was, for me anyways, a little bit of relief. There were quite a few benefits to it as well in the aspect for, I guess, the whole world. It was definitely the safest way to go forward, to not have the Olympics going ahead. It would have been a little bit messy. So, and then for me, it also having a whole extra year to just get my gains and get that everything that I needed to do last season to bring into this season. And so that was just changing a few little things, whether it be a few people in my team getting stronger, getting faster, fitter, and definitely new opportunities that we wouldn't have had before. So yeah, it's been pretty exciting to be able to change around the systems like we have the past few years. So yeah, it's been different, but a positive change, I think, for us in New Zealand.
Where does the postponement of the Games and the COVID situation and everything around that sit for you personally with the uncertainty you've had around your injuries? Were they bigger things for you to get over, the unknown that you could get on a plane and your Achilles could flare up?
Yeah, it's been really challenging because things have, the last 4 years have just been really rocky, and the first time I ever felt my Achilles, pain in my Achilles, was right before the Rio Olympics, but because it was so, it was only, I think it was within 2 weeks or something, and because it was so new and sudden, and actually I had all this training behind me, it didn't obviously affect me too badly, but things weren't necessarily the same in the following years. And so I think there's a degree of uncertainty when I know it's not necessarily that strong and I've had some issues lately, then I know that it could just come back. Whereas when I'm in a season, I've had a few seasons like this in the last 4 years where it's going strong and I've got no issues and I'm back at my full peak competing, I know it will be fine for the season and I'll be all right. So I guess Yeah, it's a tricky one because one's yourself, one's that, one sort of certain uncertainty is whether you can do it. And this was a different uncertainty that was out of our control. And so although you can apply the same sort of ideas and how to mentally get through that, I think they're very different. And for me, injury is a tricky one because you've got to get over the fact that you feel like you're not good enough or you're not able to do something. Whereas an uncertainty of the Olympics being postponed sometimes in my head was easier to deal with because I was like, well, everybody's going through this and we will do it hopefully next year and things will move on. So injury can be a bit more challenging, I think.
You mentioned as well the challenges around the qualifying and whether you were even going to be able to with your injury and that has that been tricky? Admittedly, I imagine all of that mindset as you're going to sleep at night or whatever. That must be really hard to think, I might not even get to these games if my Achilles doesn't play ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I've never taken for granted trying to qualify for events. Like way back when I started, it was always the first thing. I'd never kind of set goals outside of that until I had qualified, and I've never taken that for granted. And although I haven't taken it for granted, it's come easily in the past, and this time it wasn't going to come easily. So it was a big new challenge, and I did really struggle for a long time with trying to come to terms with that. But as I said, trying to be at peace with the situation did help me, and that's what I was telling myself, and if I didn't qualify, whether I actually felt at peace, I don't know. But that's what I was trying to achieve. And I think working with, we're very lucky with High Performance Sport New Zealand, we've got sports psychologists that we work with, and having a support team that believes in you and is going to stand by you regardless. I think those sorts of things really help you just, you do the work every day and you get to training and you do your work and that's all you can do anyway. So you come to grips with that idea. But it could still be a challenge next year. I mean, I just have no idea what's going to happen. And so, as I said, I won't take it for granted. I'll be working my ass off to try and qualify for this so that I'm not thinking ahead into an Olympic final or anything like that. I want to qualify and I want to be at the Olympic Games. That's always first and foremost.
It's crazy that, people would admire you for being so positive and so bubbly because you go from getting the bronze medal, and there's pictures even here of like the moment that you realise you're almost in tears, you take your medal home. Well, yeah, sorry, in tears. Actually, yeah. And then you take your medal home, you have all of that home welcoming, you know the feeling, and to sort of sit there and to know that something so out of your control is hampering you, it's got to be tricky.
Absolutely. It took a long time. And there was at the end of last year when my Achilles did this whole new thing that we were just completely taken aback by. It didn't seem like an injury anymore. It seemed to be some sort of autoimmune condition. That was really tough. I remember finding out that I had this positive genetic marker for these sort of autoimmune conditions, which doesn't give you 100% yes, you've got it. It just means you're very likely to have these sorts of things with my family history and all of those sorts of things. I remember getting that news and I was just, it was like almost a tragedy that night. Like I just felt, well, does that mean I can be an athlete? Do I have to change everything that I was thinking my life was going to be for the next 10 years? But, that was a very sudden emotional kind of response to it. And actually, in reality, I've had this for, clearly I was probably born with this, and I've been able to manage it in the past, and we can still manage it going forward. So I think there was a lot of dark days when that first happened, and I just had no idea how to deal with it, my world, what was important to me, and how I earn money and what I do for a living, all of those things suddenly seemed completely out of the, I just didn't know it was going to happen anymore. Whereas now I've been, I got a bit more realistic about it. My team was incredible about it, and we were just able to go, look, we can manage this, and it doesn't mean you give up hope. In fact, it's the opposite. You can keep pushing forward and still achieve something, and that's what I'm really holding on to. I think that's what pushes me forward, that, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not going to just stop at my age. I wanted to keep going and have a full career, and I want to try and still do that.
Well, you got bronze on your Achilles, so you've already proven to yourself that you can do that. And Olivia, you must be able to sympathise too, because the whole reason you got into pole vault was because your gymnastics dream was ended with a back injury, and so I'm sure you probably watch what Eliza's been going through and think, oh my goodness, like I totally get it, that could be me again. Like you just never know. It's never a guarantee, is it?
Yeah, like Liza was saying, it's really important not to take your body for granted. You never know what's going to happen to it, and I guess for me, when I first got that news, it does feel like your world's kind of changing around you. I was a lot younger and wasn't in the same position, but I think having an injury which you don't know the certainty of what you're going to be able to do with it or how you're going to be able to cope can be really difficult. But from there, I think one of the most important things is having a support team around you where they can actually help you and they have more knowledge around the situation, where you can just sort of lean on them and have that positive environment around you. And I think positivity is something that really goes a long way, and being able to, especially with injuries, and even I found with some of the injuries that I've had, the short-term ones, such as my hand, you get the injury and you have to think about how to heal from it. But I think the positivity and the mentality can actually sort of transfer into a healing process and be able to make the experience a lot better. You can go two ways. You can either be really down about it and just get down in the dumps and find it really hard to get that motivation back into training. But I think from that motivation, you can then turn it into dedication and be able to be dedicated every day, turning up to training, doing everything you possibly can to help that injury. It pretty much changes around the whole training aspect, which is probably one of the hardest things. I guess with Liza as well, watching us jump would be really difficult. So, and wanting Liza to be in our group as well, it's like really hard. But I think just taking different lessons from you as well through that time, just seeing the resilience, and it's been inspiring through this journey.
Would you say like a lot of what you're going through now is based on Eliza's success, you know, in terms of like your squad makeup, potentially, you know, the resources you potentially have moving forward, what you're able to do? Would you say that like it's really helped the sport in New Zealand?
Oh, definitely. I think it was interesting coming back from Rio and seeing the influx of more younger female athletes coming through in the sport and really growing the sport. It was crazy to see pre versus post Rio, and the sort of excitement around the sport and more people sort of understanding what it is and what it's about. Yeah, definitely.
Understanding of
understanding of it.
People actually was watching it. They can remember it. They understand what it's about, why you do what you do. Yeah, I can understand that.
And I think it's been really interesting, I guess, Liz getting the bronze in Rio and then me coming through, I guess in 2017 as well, and following in the footsteps in a different sort of way, like creating my own path, but also having Liz there to be at those competitions. Like being there at Commonwealth Games was huge for me because it was one of my biggest competitions and I hadn't had the best build-up. So to have that sort of support there, and even at all different competitions, I've sort of always had Liz or one of my other teammates there, which looking back is such a huge emphasis on, I guess, my performance and Liz, and really, I guess, our coaches' impact as well on the sport. I think for me, being able to go through that path, as much as I found there's a little bit of pressure involved with it, and that's what I realised last season, like you were saying before, around trying to replicate another season. That's really not the best way to go, and I think that's what I've been doing over the last probably year or last season, where I was sort of like, I was jumping so well last season, I need to try to do the same thing, because I guess I progressed at a faster rate. It was realising that you need to see what works for yourself and what's going to be the best thing going forwards, and the most pressure that we put is on ourselves rather than externally. So I think each season we sort of grow as athletes, depending how the season goes and what happens within those times. So I think just having a really strong support group around us has been huge, and Liza's been a huge part of that. So it's very cool.
How weird would it be, Eliza, if Olivia was competing against you at a Games, whether it be next year or 2024?
I mean, just having, like she said, the Commonwealth Games, just having my teammate, like I know we do individual sports, but it's not really, because we train every day together. We travel everywhere together. We compete together, especially through New Zealand. You know, so it doesn't actually feel like an individual sport sometimes. I think you get the benefits of both. You have a team around you, but then you're doing your own thing. And so I mean, the Commonwealth Games was just amazing to have Olivia there with me.
This summer could be quite cool for Kiwis, dependent on the Aussie bubble. How does the summer look in terms of, I mean, it's not only 9 months until the Olympics, which is actually crazy.
I mean, the summer's it's just, no one knows. I mean,
uncertainty.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there's a good chance that we might be able to get to Australia for a couple competitions, maybe. I mean, it's certainly looking more likely than other places. And so if we could do that, that would that would be a bit of a normal season for us, really, because we are in New Zealand most of the summer, and then we go to Australia for a couple competitions.
I have to ask as well, with the circumstances around everything with the Olympics and that, and the idea it could be maybe behind closed doors, you know, you never know how it could go ahead with the way that everything plays out. What would you guys like to see as athletes heading into the Games next year? Like, what's your main priorities, I guess?
I mean, it's a really tough one, because I think at the end of the day, their priority is having a fair Olympics. In my mind, if people have the chance to qualify and compete and the competitions in their areas aren't cancelled, you know, if they have an opportunity to qualify and we get most of the athletes there that would normally be there, I think that's really, really important. And if that can go ahead, then I can't see why not. But the audience is a really tricky one as well, your expectations around that. I mean, you know, it seems so bizarre thinking of having Olympic Games without an audience, but from what I understand, I think Japan might be at 50% capacity stadiums at the moment. Maybe it's something like that, you know. So I think it's really promising to see that they're planning on having the Olympics with COVID, and just making sure that if it was to happen now, it could happen now with the way COVID is going at the moment, and it won't be disrupted. So I think that's a really promising step to see, and so it makes me feel a lot more confident that things are going to go ahead. We might have some audience members. We probably will be able to go to Japan to do some pre-camp training. All of those things are looking quite likely. So, I mean, those make up the basics of an Olympics, and that would make me happy.
I mean, overall, pretty positive, isn't it, heading into next year? As you can get a Kiwi summer underway, potentially Aussie, qualify, and then, the Games, and my goodness, it'll be here.
It will.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's less than a year already. That just happened.
It went so quickly, hey? Yeah, I think now, knowing that it is going ahead, it's more how is it going to go ahead rather than if. So there's some sort of certainty in that, and it's just understanding how it's going to go ahead and what it will look like. But I think we're in a pretty good position, and we're just going to see how it plays out and get more information as it comes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, hopefully everything goes to plan, right? And I know that so many Kiwis will be keeping an eye on the Olympics. There'll probably be more viewers because they're so excited that it'll be finally underway. Now, before you go, I got a quick fire 7 questions for you. I'll ask each of you, and then you can answer. All right, the Olympic rings tattoo, yay or nay?
Yay.
No.
Would you get one?
Yeah, well, my brother's hopefully going to try get to the Olympics as well, and so is my boyfriend, and I think that's something that we're going to do over there. We're going to try create like a Olympic rings tattoo around Japan, and it's something we've talked about sort of as siblings, so that's something that would be really important to me.
Awesome.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Whereas I'm just like, I don't know, like, nothing against tattoos. Sorry if anybody's out there, but I'm just not a tattoo person. I've got no tattoos, and I don't know, I just, you know, I think, I don't know. I just always have the thing that, you know, it's about what you've done there, and you've got those memories, and I've got the medal, and, you know, all those things. I don't feel the need, I guess, but I don't know. I'm sorry for anybody out there who feels offended by that. People do get offended when I say that.
Love it. All right, night in or night out?
Night in.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm such a nana sometimes.
Fair enough. Avo on toast or eggs Benny?
Eggs Benny.
What type of eggs
wrong.
Benny though?
With a potato roasty. We like that.
Yeah, if it's like mushrooms as well, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Like, you know,
mushrooms.
mushrooms and eggs Benny. Although I do like, I don't know. No, I'm going to go Evo. I'm going to go Evo.
Oh,
I'll do like
late
Evo.
change.
I
late
don't know.
change. Pick a street. Shorten Street, Coronation Street, or Sesame Street?
Sesame
Yeah,
Street.
Sesame
God,
Street.
I'd say that.
I don't think I've ever watched the other two.
Never watched
Yeah,
Coronation.
That's
neither.
terrible. Whereas
I
I
think.
almost definitely watched Sesame Street.
Yeah, we can almost guarantee that we've seen Sesame Street. Oh, I see.
Nice. Ghosts, fact or fiction?
Are you talking about like ghosts?
Yeah,
Just ghosts.
just ghosts. Yeah, just the theory around ghosts.
Unknown around there. It is unknown, but
I think that's a.
I want to go
It's mean, eh?
fiction.
Yeah. I'm a very science
Yeah.
person. I don't want to like squander anybody's dreams out there. No, it's fiction from me.
Nice. In a 100-metre race, who would win? Lisa Carrington or Hamish Bond?
Oh my goodness. Oh, but he's into cycling now though, right? So
For a bit he was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's some serious leg power. So sorry, Lisa. I might go with Hamish.
Yeah, sorry, I think I have to go Hamish as well. He's got the leg,
The leg
power.
power. I mean, it's a bit unfair, girl against guy. I mean, who's going to win? Although if it was anything upper body, I think Lisa probably could top it. To be
Yeah.
fair.
Your
Leg
beef and
Hamish
lamb
upper
buddy
body,
just stitched her
Lisa.
up.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry, Lisa.
Counting out pole vault, if you could pick any Olympic event to compete in, which would it be?
I'm really bad at this question. I get asked it all the time. Like, if it was in athletics, I'd really love to do a decathlon.
Oh, okay.
Love to do a decathlon. That's because it's got pole vault in it. I think that's
Yeah, does
like
that
a
even
heptathlon
count?
doesn't. You've got the option between a heptathlon and decathlon. I just think the decathlon sounds so much more exciting. There's more events and there's more you can do.
I think excluding physical capability. Well, I used to be a gymnast.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, within athletics, I'm definitely just a pole vaulter. I'm not very good at the other events. I can definitely vouch for that. Maybe gymnastics or one of those other fun sports. You know what, I might say surfing.
Ooh,
I'm not the biggest surfer, but it's something I want to get into, and I think that'd be really cool, especially like coming onto the scene, like a new sport.
New event too.
Yeah.
New event. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps us up. And thanks for joining us. And make sure to follow us. We'll be catching up with more top Olympic athletes on the road to Tokyo right here on the Olipod.